So Vice President Kamala Harris and her running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, spent their first full day together on the campaign trail with 2 stops in the Midwest. The pair visited Eau Claire, Wisconsin yesterday, looking to build more momentum for the new Democratic ticket. There was plenty of enthusiasm for Harris and Walz. Look at this line. This says everything you need to know. Standing in the sun, waiting for a chance to get to a Kamala Harris-Tim Walz rally. 12,000 people packed the outdoor rally despite warm temperatures, which Governor Walz acknowledged when he spoke to the crowd. Meanwhile, the vice president again drew a clear contrast between their campaign and the Republican ticket.
And a real special thank you to everybody here. Looking out across here, look, you're busy people. You got things to do. It's a summer day. You had to walk 2 miles. I had nothing to do with that, by the way, nothing. But you came here for one beautiful, simple reason. You love this country and this democracy.
And understand, in this fight, as Tim Walz likes to point out, we are joyful warriors. Joyful warriors. Because we know that while fighting for a brighter future may be hard work is good work. Hard work is good work. And so we will continue to fight for affordable housing, for affordable health care, affordable child care, and paid leave. We believe in a future where we lower the cost of living for America's families so that they have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead.
So then it was on to Michigan. After that event in Wisconsin, Vice President Harris and Governor Walz spoke to a fired-up crowd in Detroit, Michigan last night. The campaign says it was forced to change venues to an airport hangar after receiving 47,000 ticket requests to the event. According to the campaign, 15,000 attended, making it one of their largest rallies yet.
Unlike Donald Trump, I will always put the middle class and working families first. Because Coach Walz and I know the middle class built this great country of ours, and when the middle class is strong, America is strong. The man has openly vowed, if reelected, that he will be a dictator on day one. Think about what that means when he said that he will even, quote, terminate the Constitution of the United States. Because let us be very clear, someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. Never again.
I don't know if we can find some video of the crowds there, but Charlie Sykes, I'd like to go to you because yesterday on this show you said, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in Michigan and Wisconsin. So what do you think about what is happening in Michigan and Wisconsin, especially at rallies like this where you have people showing up in the heat, showing up because they just met Tim Walz and they want to get more, and they are just meeting Kamala Harris as a candidate, but they're showing up for her in droves. And I'll just say, personal anecdote, I know some Republican women who worked in government for Republican candidates and politicians who are showing up at one of these rallies, who are going to travel across the country to be there for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. What do you make of it? Is it a sugar high, or is something happening here?
Well, it may be a sugar high, but something's definitely happening here. You always try to sift out the wishful thinking and the speculation from what's actually happening, and that's actually happening. Look, Eau Claire, Wisconsin is I would say, 52, 53%, Biden area surrounded by a sea of red. That's a big crowd to turn out in Wisconsin. But you're seeing this around the country, and I think it's an indication of the fact that here's a party that hasn't had these kinds of big rallies, or hasn't had this kind of enthusiasm, and it is really it is generating a lot of activism that you don't see. I was talking to some Democrats yesterday here in Wisconsin, and they're seeing this up and down the ballot. I mean, it's not just the presidential race. These people are being activated. And again, just remember where we were 3 weeks ago. The mood of the Democratic Party compared to this is really extraordinary. But that turnout in Wisconsin is important because, of course, this is the theory of the case, right, for Tim Walz, that he will have this kind of appeal, not just in Minnesota, but in rural areas like Eau Claire, Wisconsin, in Michigan, and at least that's playing out in the short term. And the contrast, if I could, the contrast between what you're seeing there on the screen and the fact that where is Donald Trump? Donald Trump is not on the campaign trail. And you have J.D. Vance doing this sort of pathetic, weird stalking thing. So this is rather extraordinary split screen, the non-Trump campaign versus these kinds of enthusiastic rallies.
Right. We're going to get to the awkward stalking the plane moment in just a minute. But I'm just curious, Jonathan Lemire, because, of course, Joe doesn't like it when I do this, but I do watch a lot of the right, whether it's Fox News or Newsmax or podcasts, and I want to hear what the reaction is on the right. And what I found interesting is that it's extremely mixed and extremely vitriolic and extremely loud, but not all the same stories. Almost as if there's a grasping going on. I could be overstating it, but it's everything from talking about his walk, talking about his appearance, trying to spread disinformation about his story, but very loud, very there's almost like a manic reaction to scramble to figure out what's wrong with this guy. And then you cut to a picture of Tim Walz, and he's on the shotgun with his daughter at the Minnesota State Fair, or, surrounded by kids. I mean, he doesn't have, I don't know. I mean, does this look like a cruel, mean guy? Does this look like the boogeyman? Because last time I checked, he's a pretty popular guy who is now garnering crowds of 10, 12, 14,000 along with Kamala Harris. So which is it, Jonathan Lemire?
Yeah, I mean, certainly right now, Republicans are straining for any sort of coherent attack lines on the new Democratic ticket, on Vice President Harris, on Governor Walz. I mean, they're debuting a few more, which we'll see if they have traction or not, including calling into question some of parts of Governor Walz's military service. But right now, this is a remarkable rollout for the Democrats, in sharp contrast to the very shaky rollout that J.D. Vance has had so far since he was added to the ticket. And we should note the Cook Political Report, which has a pretty good read on polling and handle of things, just moved 3 states, Arizona, Nevada, Georgia. All 3 had been leaning Republican, now in the toss-up category, which shows Harris has moved anywhere between 2 and 5 points in those states, showing just how tight this race has become.
Wow.
And Eugene Daniels, we saw there in Wisconsin the appeal of this ticket, sort of out in more suburban, rural areas. That's where Tim Walz certainly is going to spend a lot of time. But the vice president and her running mate were also in Detroit last night. You were in Detroit. You were at the rally. And she drew a big crowd there as well. And that's also so key here. There were so many Democrats in months, the last few months, when President Biden was atop the ticket, who were worried that he couldn't turn out cities, he couldn't turn out young voters, he couldn't turn out voters of color. You need to run up margins in the big cities in order to win those battleground states. At least for one night, Harris proved quite the draw. Give us your read as to your takeaways from what you saw.
Yeah. 15,000 people in kind of an airport hangar is not how I typically think of Vice President Harris. And I've been covering her for this entire time. And during 2019, is people looking for, and I talked to folks yesterday who were hot and people were kind of falling out, needing water, who stayed there for hours waiting to kind of just get a glimpse. It's something that we've never seen because they see her as a solution to a problem they had. For a long time, Democrats felt like they had no chance in a lot of these states, including Michigan, that they were losing their grip on the possibility of winning later in November, that they were losing the ability to beat Donald Trump. And so what you're hearing and seeing from folks is this excitement that, like, we're back on the board, right? That is how Democrats are feeling right now. And they see Vice President Harris and now Tim Walz as a new beginning to something. And they have not a lot of time. I will say Vice President Harris herself has been very clear with her team. Talked to a bunch of staff. We're in the hotel, as you can see here in Detroit. And the thing that they keep saying is that she has brought up over and over and over again to remind her team to not get obsessed with the sugar high. We reported this in Politico a couple of weeks back. And she's continued to say that. She said in all of these, in this stump speech, that, you know, we're the underdog, because she is very cognizant of 2016 when Democrats felt like they had it in the bag and then folks didn't turn out to vote. So she is telling everybody, including the folks at the rallies, the folks behind closed doors, that don't get used to this sugar high. You have to get out and do the work. We are the underdogs, because she can see how excited a candidate could get with all of these rallies. And then at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't turn itself into an actual win in November. It is, you know, like I said, I've been covering her this entire time. And the idea that Vice President Harris would have 15,000 people in an airport hangar in Michigan is just like, it is kind of head spinning for those of us who've been paying a lot of attention. And also same thing for President Biden, right? President Biden's biggest the biggest events were 2,000, 3,000 people. Those pale in serious comparison, including the folks in Wisconsin who walked for miles, literally 2 miles, including our colleague Elena Schneider, who was there covering it, had to get out of her car and walk 2 miles so she could actually get to the event. And people have been doing that here, there, and we're going to Arizona later today for her event tomorrow. And it seems like the campaign says there's a lot, there's thousands and thousands of people ready to do the same thing. So this is the swing and this rollout of Tim Walz and this ticket, it has gone really well for Vice President Harris and her team right now.
I completely agree. Kamala Harris, of all people, would know you never, especially as a woman, we know never to get confident and to keep the work going. But if you look at that crowd, if I could just point out some contrasts here. Donald Trump says people in the crowd should get punched. Reporters should get punched. You know, screams things about people who need to get dragged out. We will have Kamala Harris's response to protesters in just a moment. And by the way, Jackie Alamany, let's see. People like getting so overheated at rallies or in audiences and needing water. You know where that happens? At Adele concerts, at Taylor Swift concerts. That's like, you get them on Instagram. You see those moments where Adele is like, stop, please, let's get this person some water. And Tim Walz literally did that yesterday because somebody needed water, and it was trending as this incredible moment. I don't know what's going on, but people are very excited about this ticket, and this ticket knows it needs to keep working. The Harris campaign is booked and busy, visiting swing states this weekend. And there's another contrast. Former President Trump's schedule seems kind of empty. He spent the past couple of days in dark Mar-a-Lago, posting pictures with the podcaster. Today, the vice president will hold another campaign event in Michigan before traveling to Phoenix for a rally there tomorrow. Harris then heads to Las Vegas for a campaign event on Saturday.